Open your freezer and pull out that glossy pizza box. The packaging shows a golden crust, melted cheese, and what looks like a safe, effortless dinner. But the moment you take a bite, the illusion falls apart. What you're really consuming is a sodium-packed product coated in additives, manufactured months ago, and stored in facilities that would raise serious health concerns. So, let us run through 9 frozen pizzas you should never bring home, and to that are genuinely worth your money. 1. Trader Joe's Uncured Pepperoni Pizza. On August 29, 2025, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a public health alert for this popular pie. The reason? It bypassed the mandatory import reinspection process required by federal law. That means it reached store shelves without the USDA verifying it was safe for sale in the United States. The skipped step wasn't a minor bureaucratic detail. It's the exact checkpoint designed to confirm the product is safe to eat after crossing international borders. Without it, consumers were trusting paperwork, not actual verification. The FSIS identified specific lot codes. If those codes were sitting in your freezer, the agency's recommendation was direct: discard it or bring it back. Even Trader Joe's acknowledged it as an administrative error. Cold comfort when food safety is on the line. This pizza had already reached shelves in over 60 California locations before the alert was ever released. Shoppers were left wondering whether they had unknowingly served their families something harmful disguised as dinner. The FDA has not linked it to any outbreak, but is it really worth the gamble, especially if you're managing heart conditions or kidney medications? You open the box expecting crispy crust and bold pepperoni. Instead, you're chewing on uncertainty. Every bite represents a risk that should never have been taken. Older adults in particular cannot afford invisible threats in their food. A compromised immune system doesn't need additional exposure from products that slipped through safety checkpoints. Until that trust is rebuilt, look for a local brand, a reliable organic option, or better yet, something made fresh in front of you. Ode to Celeste Pizza. For one, the tiny little pie that fills your kitchen with the smell of plastic instead of pizza. The box leans hard into nostalgia, Mama Celeste smiling, the promise of a comforting single-serving meal. What you actually get is a limp crust, artificial additives, and a microwave result that feels less like dinner and more like a mistake. Marketed as affordable comfort food, Celeste hides a troubling secret. Independent reviews and the Environmental Working Group have flagged certain versions for containing titanium dioxide, a compound that some studies link to cellular damage. Europe has banned it. The FDA still allows it. So while the packaging plays on your nostalgia, the ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment. The real concern for older adults: aging immune systems don't need unnecessary chemical exposure. That thin crust may seem innocent, but the blend of additives and high sodium puts real stress on kidneys. These kidneys are already working hard to manage medications. A single box can deliver more than 650 milligrams of sodium, and that's without any extras on the side. For anyone on blood pressure medication, that's like adding fuel to an open flame. Heat one up and the smell is faintly synthetic with a chemical undertone. The crust goes soft in the center and overdone at the edges. Take a bite and the sauce tastes sweet and metallic, almost like sucking on a copper coin. The cheese hardens into a rubbery layer that shifts around like melted plastic. Comfort food, only if your definition of comfort involves regret. 3. A screaming Sicilian, Connie's, Urban Pie and Palermo's. Open the box and the word premium starts to feel like a personal insult. The labels talk up bold flavors, generous toppings, and artisan-style crusts. The reality is undercooked dough, grease pooling across the surface, and toppings that taste like clearance bin finds. Consumer feedback piles up fast: soggy centers, floppy slices, and crusts that collapse beneath their own oil. These brands depend heavily on processed meats, pepperoni, sausage, and mystery meat blends packed with sodium and nitrates. One single slice can push 900 milligrams of sodium. Seniors managing blood pressure or kidney function aren't just eating dinner, they're swallowing a salt and preservative cocktail with every bite. Add in the nitrates, which research connects to elevated cardiovascular risks, and what you have is a pizza that creates more problems than it solves. The crust turns gummy in the center while the outer edge dries out like stale bread. The cheese leaves a greasy film across your plate. The oil gathers in puddles that catch the light like a rain-soaked parking lot. The first bite confirms your worst suspicions. dough that never fully cooked through, toppings with the texture of rubber, and a heavy fatty steam that clings to your kitchen walls. Is that what anyone means by gourmet? For a DiGiorno, famous for the line, "It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno." In reality, it's not delivery, it's disappointment. The commercials promise a crust that outperforms your local pizza place and sauce that pops with real flavor. Take a bite and what you find is a mountain of doughy bread with sweetened tomato paste spread on top. DiGiorno has built its entire identity around being better than delivery. The truth is a crust so thick and undercooked, it feels like chewing through a dinner roll. The sauce, rather than being rich and tangy, is oddly sweet. Closer to tomato jam than pizza sauce, reviewers have called it pizza cake. Heavy, saccharine, and not something you'd want twice. A single serving can hit 850 milligrams of sodium and more than 8 grams of saturated fat. Eat half the pizza, which most people do, and you've blown past your daily safe limit for both. For seniors on heart meds, blood pressure pills, or kidney treatments, that's more than a guilty pleasure. That's a dangerous spike your body can't just shrug off. For diabetics, that overly sweet sauce means blood sugar spikes fast, the very thing you're told to avoid. The crust is spongy, almost rubbery, soaking up grease that seeps through the box. The sauce tastes like it was mixed with corn syrup, and the cheese forms a dense slab that cools into a chewy mat. Pull it out of the oven and instead of roasted herbs, you get a puff of sweetbready steam. More like a cheap bakery than a pizzeria. 5. Red Baron. A pizza brand that claims to rule the frozen aisle with bold flavors. But in reality this Baron rules over a kingdom of cardboard. The box promises brick oven taste and hearty toppings. Instead, what you pull from the oven feels more like reheated packing material with grease poured on top. Red Baron markets its pizzas as rich and satisfying. Yet customer reviews consistently slam the crust as cardboard-like. Even the meat trio, which should be loaded with flavor, ends up with rubbery cheese and sad slices of processed meat. The so-called boldness tastes muted, as if someone whispered pepperoni into a vat of dough. One serving of Red Baron's meat trio packs 760 milligrams of sodium and 7 grams of saturated fat. Most people eat half the pizza or more, piling unnecessary strain on the cardiovascular system with every bite. Processed meats are already linked to higher risks of heart disease. Mix them with sodium bombs like this, and you've got the recipe for trouble. The cheese doesn't melt into gooey strings. It stretches like rubber bands and leaves a greasy film that clings to your lips. The crust tastes flat and stale, crumbling under your teeth without flavor. Every slice feels like chewing through pressed paper that soaked up an oil spill. Instead of garlic, herbs, or roasted tomato, you're met with a heavy, almost chemical steam that hangs in the kitchen like cheap cologne. 6. Toni's, a name that should mean Italian comfort. Instead, it feels closer to drywall with sauce. The box markets Toni's as a budget-friendly family pizza, a quick way to feed everyone without breaking the bank. But what actually comes out of the oven? Minimal toppings, inconsistent crust, and a sauce so sugary it tastes more like dessert than dinner. Customer reviews mock the crust for being either rock hard or floppy, depending on which slice you grab. Some call it coin flip crust. You never know if your bite will snap like a cracker or sag like wet cardboard. That's not tradition, that's roulette. A single serving of Toni's original crust can hit 750 milligrams of sodium with plenty of hidden sugars from its syrupy sauce. Seniors on kidney medication or blood pressure pills can't process that kind of load without stress. Too much sodium means water retention, swollen ankles, and blood pressure spikes that can undo the very medications people depend on. The edges bake into rock-hard rims that could chip a tooth, while the center stays damp and soggy. The sauce is sticky sweet, clinging to the crust in a way that feels more like glue than tomato. Bite in and it's not balanced flavor, it's sugar, salt, and disappointment mashed together. You expect roasted tomato and garlic. What you get is a faintly sour, almost metallic steam that lingers in the kitchen. 7. Walmart's Great Value Rising Crust. The budget pie that proves sometimes cheap really is too costly. The box promises a rising crust that bakes up golden and fluffy. But when you open it, the only thing rising is the grease. Instead of a hearty pizza, you're staring at a soggy sponge that smells faintly metallic. Families buy Great Value thinking it's a reliable, low-cost dinner. But customer reviews are stacked with complaints: sponge-like crusts that collapse under toppings, grease dripping onto the pan, and a weird tin-like aftertaste. One reviewer even said it tastes like someone baked bread in an old toolbox. The crust caves in soggy while the outer ring turns gummy and chewy. Add the excess grease and it's less like pizza. The smell lingers in your kitchen long after the meal, not garlic, not cheese, but that faint metallic whiff like hot pennies. A single serving can top 780 milligrams of sodium with plenty of hidden fat. Seniors on blood pressure or kidney meds are gambling with swelling, headaches, and water retention for the sake of a cheap dinner. Too much grease mixed with high sodium is a perfect storm for heart strain. These products stay on shelves because they're inexpensive, safe for long-term health, not remotely. 8. Amy's Cheese Pizza. Amy's sells the idea of health. The packaging sells trust, but that first bite sells regret. Positioned as organic, wholesome, and clean, Amy's markets itself as the obvious choice for people avoiding chemicals and artificial ingredients. Parents reach for it believing it's better for their children. Seniors grab it assuming it's a safe option for fragile health. Critics call it flavorless. Reviews repeatedly describe the crust as stale, as if it had been sitting in a freezer for half its natural lifespan. The sauce is watery, bleeding into the crust until you're chewing something that resembles damp cardboard. This isn't comfort food, it's disappointment wrapped in an organic label. For what you're paying, you expect flavor and freshness. Instead, you get chewy edges, a soft center, and cheese that barely reaches a melt. Many seniors trust the organic label and assume it means low sodium and heart-friendly. Yet a single serving still delivers more than 700 milligrams of sodium, with enough refined starch in the crust to spike blood sugar levels. For someone already managing blood pressure or heart disease, this safe option can trigger the exact problems they were trying to prevent. Europe maintains stricter standards for processed organic foods, but here in the US, brands like Amy's navigate looser FDA requirements. The crust is chewy in the wrong way, like gnawing on cardboard softened with tap water. The sauce runs thin, bland, and slightly metallic. The cheese doesn't stretch, it just sits there, congealed and lifeless. Organic, sure. Worth eating? Absolutely not. 9. Target's Market Pantry Thin Crust Supreme. The name implies greatness. The box shows a crisp crust, loaded toppings, and rich red sauce. Peel back the packaging and the only thing supreme here is the level of disappointment. The crust, customers describe it as tasting stale before it ever enters the oven. Instead of coming out crisp, it fractures dry, like old plaster crumbling. One bite in and the toppings slide off in clumps, leaving behind bare patches of flavorless crust. The sauce contributes nothing, flat, watery, and gone faster than a bad excuse. This pizza still hits you with over 800 milligrams of sodium per serving, with no meaningful return on taste or nutrition. For older adults already managing blood pressure medications or kidney issues, that sodium hit is a genuine health threat. Review boards overflow with complaints about its cardboard texture and stale bite. The so-called vegetables on top regularly taste like freezer burn, limp and drained of any flavor. The cheese doesn't melt consistently. It either scorches around the edges or forms a rubbery sheet that peels off in one piece. It's the frozen pizza version of a counterfeit product, looks acceptable in a photo, falls apart the moment you use it. Shoppers grab store brands like Market Pantry expecting a solid value, something simple and dependable. Instead, they get a product that fails at every level, leaving the freezer smelling faintly of grease and broken promises. Safe picks, worth buying. Safe pick 1. Milton's Roasted Vegetable Cauliflower Crust Pizza. A genuine surprise in the freezer aisle, this one actually delivers what the box promises. No misleading photography. No bait and switch. Just a thin, crisp crust and roasted vegetables that taste like real food. A frozen pizza that doesn't deceive you. Registered dietitians frequently highlight this brand for its nutritional balance. Roughly 340 calories, 18 grams of protein, and 3 grams of fiber per half pizza. Compare that to the sodium grenades we just reviewed. It's not even close. You're not overwhelmed with salt. You're not left wondering whether the organic claim is just clever marketing. Instead, you get a clean label. This choice doesn't set older adults up for a nasty health surprise. The crust isn't soggy or gummy, it's crisp, golden, and genuinely light. The vegetables, roasted peppers, onions, and zucchini actually taste like they were grown somewhere, not manufactured. No freezer burn, No rubbery cheese, just a real crunch and a savory bite that doesn't feel like punishment for wanting something convenient. The ingredient list skips most of the chemical shortcuts. No titanium dioxide, no mystery meat blends, no sodium levels that send your blood pressure monitor into alarm mode. For seniors managing heart or kidney conditions, that's not just a benefit, it's a necessity. Safe Pick 2 Banza Chickpea Crust Pizza. Chickpeas as a pizza base. Sounds strange, works surprisingly well. This pie flips the entire frozen script. Instead of empty refined flour that sends your blood sugar climbing, you're getting a base that delivers 16 to 17 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber per serving. That combination supports blood sugar stability, keeps you satiated longer, and actually makes sense for older adults managing diabetes, heart medications, or kidney concerns. The crust doesn't fall apart like cardboard. It bakes up crisp, slightly nutty, and genuinely satisfying. Pair that with quality toppings like roasted vegetables or a classic margarita style, and you've got something that comes closer to a real restaurant experience than anything else on this list. Most frozen pizzas are sugar delivery systems in disguise. The FDA allows brands to list added sugars under names that most shoppers don't recognize. Banza cuts through that. A clean label means fewer additives, reduced sodium, and no misleading health claims. Europe bans several preservatives still found in major American frozen pizza brands. Banza doesn't rely on those shortcuts, which makes it a genuinely safer option for anyone exhausted by eating around regulatory loopholes. Golden crust with a subtle, nutty aroma. Cheese that melts evenly across the surface. No greasy film. No freezer burn smell contaminating your kitchen. It's proof that convenience and quality aren't mutually exclusive. Stop trusting the glossy box in your freezer. If this breakdown was useful, share your worst frozen pizza experience in the comments below. And for more food industry exposes, hit subscribe.